Campbell's comments, doing something a little bit different, although not totally different, I must say. Firstly, John Campbell. Hello, John.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Very, very good. You won just recently at the Gordon Rothick Awards night. What was it, about a fortnight ago, 3 weeks ago?
3, I think.
3 weeks ago. Distinguished Services Award there. And I thought I'd take the opportunity to, I suppose, catch up, sit down, catch up, and get an understanding, I suppose, of why. Because, you know, a lot of people know you as John Campbell from Boort. A few of the older generation would know you from John Campbell from Loddon Valley Stud and from Boort. And there's probably a few people that don't even know you as that. They recent exploits with Morong and the likes going forward. So I think sometimes to find the whole story out of participants is actually really, really key. But you and I have had the odd conversations on Campbell's comments before. They can go for a little while.
Oh, yes. I think we're trimming them up a bit as we go along, and I'm a bit worried about the good and the bad if you're starting to talk about 50 or 60 years.
we won't cover the whole lot, but I don't want to drop it short either. Firstly, winning that award the other night, how does that make you feel? Someone that has given you your life, I suppose, to harness racing.
Yeah, look, it was great. And the thing I liked about it was, Boort got a good mention, but Michael Felgate had a little bit of a list from somewhere that mentioned a few other things that I'd been involved with on the way through, and I think that was important because there's a lot of people around the country clubs that have put the same amount of years into their club as I have at Boort, and it was good that a few other things got a mention.
Oh, absolutely, and I think there's so many people in our industry, and that's why I wanted to sit down with you, and it won't be the last one. I know a good mate of mine, Ian Purdy, he recently, I think, but it might be a little bit longer than I thought, retired from Kyabram. He was awarded one too. So there's a lot of people that over the journey have given a lot of their time to the industry. Some are paid positions, but I would imagine a lot of the time they're a fair way out of pocket if they were charging an hourly rate.
My word, and the volunteer side of things is important. Someone tried to sum me up. Always a volunteer, always a team person as far as getting anything, achieving anything, and always community, whether the local community or our industry community.
Yeah, and that's what you're always key and very strong on that, aren't you?
Yeah, well, when you look back, that's what sticks out a little bit.
It is indeed. Anyone that's had a little bit to do with John will know that this top pocket over here, he always has his notebook in it. Kay wanted to remove that, and I said, no, we've got to keep these props because that is actually legit. It's never far from you, is it, your list of notes? You're always thinking, even now, at your tender age.
Yeah, well, when you've got a memory like me, you've got to write things down.
Very good. How old are you, John?
I'm gone 70.
Just gone 70?
No.
We'll leave it at that. When did harness racing start? I know you and your father had Loddon Valley Stud. Is that where it actually started? Were you born there at Durham Ox? Or?
No. Well, Dad started. He left school like a lot of people did in those days at year 8, and he worked the team, and he was always a horseman. They said he had great hacks he rode, and then Trot started at the showgrounds in November 1947, and that got him going. So he developed into a breeder, and he did a bit of training and a bit of driving. So I was feeding horses, right from an early age, and it went on.
Before we get off Dad's racing career, I'm sure you'll come back into it in a little bit, but like his training and driving with much success, or like how would you rate him?
Oh, well, he had a track in the paddock at home, and no, he only did a little bit of training and a little bit of driving.
Yep.
But I can remember an important day at Charlton. He wanted to have a decent horse or two there, and his trainer at the time, Jack McKay, sent 2 or 3 horses up, and Jack told him how to drive them, of course. And one horse, he had to reef him on the bit to going round the corners to straighten him up, and yeah, it all worked really well. But no, he didn't do a lot of training and driving.
He didn't.
No.
Were you living in Melbourne at that time, like on
No.
the showgrounds? No.
No. Always Barracky.
Yep.
And
Just for people who don't know, Barracky is.
it's on the railway line between Charlton and Buckrabaniel and Wichita.
Two more places you don't know. On the way to Boort, I gather.
Not quite. Another railway line.
This is going to be one of those interviews. Kay's over in the side there giggling, and I don't blame her one bit. What drew Dad and yourself to the breeding side of things, I suppose?
Well, Dad loved irrigation, and he didn't have any in the early days. And he was pumping water at Cow Swamp south of Pyramid Hill when I was born, and they had a little bit of trouble finding him. But he used to drive through Derramox over to Cow Swamp, and so he bought 640 acres at Derramox, which was irrigated. So that was the start of Derramox. And then in about 1950, bought a stallion, Noble Scott.
Hang on, slow down a sec. So when you say bought Durham, so Loddon Valley Stud is no longer there now.
Mm.
It wasn't Durham-Ox though. But it was in the Durham-Ox zoning.
Yes, it's the stud was 2k east of Durham-Ox.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to clarify that. So his first foray into horses, I suppose, or breeding horses, was to buy a stallion, was it?
Oh yeah, he was racing some. Didn't take him long to get started after the showground started in '47, and he raced a few, and then he bought the farm and bought a stallion.
So how old were you when he bought the stallion?
Fairly young.
Yep.
Very young.
Yeah. So you were a toddler, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So pretty much you've always been brought up around stallions, and is the end of one of the questions I'll ask. So the answer will be yes. So was that stallion when you say bought a stallion, was that like a colonial stallion? Like was it a locally raced horse, or was it?
Oh no, he's a well-known stallion. He bought him off the Abrahams family, Noble Scott.
Oh, he was a very well-known horse.
Yes, Max Agnew always said in his writings that it was the most money paid for a standardbred stallion at that time.
Dad paid that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he stood him at 60 guineas and got 100 mares the first year, so that balanced that bit of it out.
How much did Dad pay for him?
Oh, 6,000 or 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
So we're talking 1950s, 1960s.
1950s, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that would be a lot of money back then.
Yes, and he put a studmaster in, and it went on from there.
Did he ever say why he wanted to stand a stallion? Like it seems by the sounds of it, for the way you're saying it, he was pretty casual in the sport. Like I mean, he had his toe in it, but not.
Yeah, no, he was pretty serious.
Yep. That was always his goal.
Yes. Yeah. He wrote to Trotting Control Board to see who had the best family for broodmares. And I think it might have been Ron Harry's father wrote back and said the best family is the Pride of Lincoln family.
Yep.
But it's very well held in New Zealand. So Dad started corresponding with Gerald Lancaster, who owned most of them. And in due course, 7 of them come over on the Wanganella. Dad bought the mares, and in the tray truck with the wooden sides and a wooden float on the back. No, we put the float on the tray truck for the trip to Sydney, and he brought the 7 home on the tray truck and the float. So that was some of the mares he started with, and he loved Raider. He sent mares to Raider. No, he was pretty serious.
Did you go on the Sydney trip?
No,
No.
I was going to primary school.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure because I was thinking that would have been a pretty big thing for a young kid, but even for your dad, or even the harness industry, to get 7 mares from New Zealand. There is a couple of firsts that you guys have done. Was that something that was done a lot of back then in that time?
No, not a lot. Some.
Yeah.
But yes, he got serious.
I like my breeding. I think a lot of people, really enjoy it. That Pride of Lincoln family, we've had a little bit to do with it. It's just a great family, and it's still, to this day, one of the great families, isn't it? It just keeps popping up all the time. Just read the bottom of your stud book, and it comes up everywhere. New Zealand, Australia, it doesn't matter where it is. It's a great family, isn't it?
Yes, well, then in due course, Noble Scott became the leading sire in Australia.
Yep.
And then so he decided to buy his full brother, Clan McTavish. So we had the two stallions there, and he was a successful stallion as well.
Clan McTavish, obviously not as good as Noble Scott, because everyone's heard of Noble Scott.
Yeah.
Clan McTavish is nowhere near as common.
Oh no, not quite in the same bracket, but my word, he left horses like Macquarie and Lassie McTavish, and yeah, he did a good job.
It's a great name,
Yes.
isn't it? It just rolls off the tongue. Clan
My word.
McTavish.
Yes.
But so when you were growing up, I suppose the stallions were always there around. Was it always what John Campbell was going to do?
No. We didn't stand a stallion where we lived at Barracky, and Dad had a studmaster at Derramox, and in the 50s we were very much Charlton people. I was born in Charlton, and Dad was on the Charlton Trotting Club committee when they built the new three-cornered track, and I sold race books at the gate at Charlton Trots, and Mum was on the ladies' committee. Bruce Skeggs was a young bloke who had to hitchhike up to be the race caller at those sort of meetings, and he'd buy one bottle of soft drink for the day and get Mum to keep it in the fridge, and he'd come over and on the hot days come over and have a glass after every second race, something like that. So yeah, we were very much Charlton in those days. And then when I left school, we were doing a little bit of broadacre farming in a smallish way. So second year I left school, we sowed 400 acres, which was a fair bit for those days, and made a bit of money and bought a little bit more ground at Derramox. And then first stallion I did any work on was Dale Spring. And he was a yearling colt Dad had bought in New Zealand, and he raced him with success. And then he put him over some mares.
Raced him in New Zealand or brought him to Australia?
No, here.
Yep.
Yeah. Dale Spring was an exciting stallion. When you look back over his figures for the number of foals and the number of good horses, I think he had the fastest two Australian horses to go to the US at one stage. Dad and I shared the work with him serving the mares.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd go from Barracky to Derramox each day in the stud season anyway.
So for you straight into the start, you never trained, you didn't drive?
No, I trained one horse in amongst the trees there where we lived, Dale Spring.
All right.
He broke down.
Yep.
Went amiss and brought him back and trained him, and then he went back racing. And
did you race him? No, or did someone?
No. He raced in Sydney at Harold Park, and I'm pretty sure the story is correct that one of his first crop was Dale's Gift.
Yep.
And Dale's Gift and Dale Spring won at Harold Park the same night.
Oh, serious? So while he was out injured, and then he came back, and they actually both won on the same night.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a little bit of trivia for you.
And Dale's Gift set a world record. We worked it out. Some of the media fellas worked out that Dale's Gift winning the Sapling Stakes at Harold Park was a world record, but of course there was not many world records on standing starts on half-mile tracks over that distance, but he was a good colt.
You don't worry about them. If you own Low High Liz, you still claim one of those as well. So it is all good. We might get onto the evolution of that. So you were always, I suppose, earmarked, if you like, to be around the stallions and the breeding barn.
Yes, yeah, that's the way it panned out. Dad mentioned to me one day that he didn't want me to go into the horses. Now, I never checked with him whether he was testing me to see if I had some resolve or whether he thought it better not to go into an industry with some risk, but we were too busy to even think about it.
So At its prime, Loddon Valley, like how many stallions would you have had at its busiest time?
Well, Kay and I married in 72 and we took up residence there then. Yes, we finished up with 6 stallions a couple of seasons.
And that was all manual serve, none of this AI, and we'll get onto that in a second, how all that part has actually changed. But it was all manual serves. Mares would be coming to the farm, so that would have been pretty full on.
Yeah, the mare had to go to the farm where the stallions stood.
Yep.
So, we developed a bit. We had over 400 mares on the farm in our peak years, and we were... Yeah, looking back on it, we got a lot of wonderful broodmare owners a foal.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. Like a result was just to get a nice healthy foal for people.
Yeah, well, that was our main workload over a few years.
Kay's sitting over here, and she is your rock. You said there you were married in 72. How did you guys meet? Through the horses, or was it like football, or you can't remember? Here's a curveball. I might have him stumped a bit, Kay, for a minute.
No, I can remember pretty clearly. I used to pick up. Had a fairly newish Valiant, and used to pick up about 4 of the girls in War Street in Charlton to go to the dance or the pictures.
So you're a bit smooth, is this what you're saying?
No, I was just driving the Valiant.
A bit smooth.
Oh, took a while.
took a while. No horses though for Kate?
Back then,
Like,
no, she loved them, but not involved.
It's a little side note, actually. One of my great little, I suppose, notches. Well, I actually haven't got it. My wife has it. Kay's first official owner was a horse that my wife trained. It was only about half a dozen years ago, which is a true story, isn't it?
And didn't they have a ball?
They did. They definitely did. It was by one of your stallions, who we will get to.
Yeah, but they'd run third with that filly.
Yep.
And they went to the bar and drank some champagne celebrating.
They did have some fun, I must say. And we should get back into that. But that's another story. But so yourself...
She beat 2 Oaks winning fillies in the Ballarat Oaks, that filly those 12 ladies had.
Yes, I know. They had a lot of fun that time, so there was a lot of time. We got off subject. We're not allowed to get off subject. We're going to stay there. So yourself and Kay moved to Durham, to Loddon Valley as a permanent resident. So I suppose then that was it. That was for you. You were head down, backside up as a stud master.
Yes, and Kay was very busy raising 3 kids.
Yep. Yeah. 3... in the middle of nowhere, basically, too. So I reckon it would have been testing times.
Oh yes, we're in the middle of Boort and Pyramid Hill. It was fine. Kay nodded her head about the testing times, though.
Yeah, I know. I could see that. She nearly broke it. She was not that hard.
Luckily, she was a nurse. She learned how to survive some things.
So is one of the reasons that you, I suppose, got involved with tracks and clubs, and I suppose, like you said there, a lot of the other volunteering thing is that stud season is incredibly full on, basically from the start of the season through to Christmas, but then it does back off a little bit. It's not easy. Please, any person out there watching this that has a stud, I'm not saying that it's early, but is that one of the reasons that you do have times where you don't have a lot to do, that you got involved with other, like the tracks and the clubs?
Yeah, there was perhaps 20 years where there wasn't any times that we had nothing to do, because we were breeding our own foals, and you start weaning and rearing and doing all sorts of things. But got invited to Boort at one of their trotting club AGMs, and did a little bit of sponsorship, and that was in the late 80s, and that was the start of Boort and country clubs.
How long have you been involved at Boort then? So 80s right through. How long have you been on the committee, and how long have you been president?
I was late 80s when started the sponsorship, and Daryl Poxon was chair at the time, and he asked me to say a few words at an AGM. So I stayed involved after that. On the committee, then vice chair, and used to have up to 27 on the committee. It was good. And then took a turn at being chair in 2005, because Keith Salathiel had been chairman, and he said if we're going to fight HRV's decision to close 15 towns down from having race meetings on their home tracks, he said, you'll have to have a go. He said, no, I'm not ready for that. So in 05, I took my turn as chair.
And haven't changed since? You've always been in charge since?
Yes.
Right. It's one of the great things I do love about Boort, and we will get back to where we're going. You said there before, though, about Daryl Poxon. Every year, I'm fortunate enough to be the on-track emceeing there at Boort, and always honour a lot of those people. And Daryl and his wife, whose name escapes me just at the minute, Roz, come every year. You have a memorial. They come every year, and that is one of the trademarks, if you like, of Boort, or the parts you can hang your hat on, is that the people that keep coming and keep coming back year after year. Yeah,
well, Daryl and Roz, they're special. Daryl was chair of Boort, and then he moved away into New South Wales and came back. And when the 100-year anniversary was coming up for Boort Trotting Club, he thought he'd delve into the history a little bit, and he wrote the history of the first 100 years. And then a little bit later on, it was suggested to him that we've had a bit happen in the next 25 years, Daryl. What about another book? And he did. And I think Boort might be the only club that's had 2 books written on the history of the club.
Unsubstantiated, that one, though. We better be careful. We can't say that is guaranteed, or you can.
I'm pretty certain.
All right. We'll see. We'll know how many people will watch it to hear, if there is someone.
Odds on, I reckon.
Odds on. Right, back to the Stallions. So yourself and Kay moved in there in 72, which was 50 years ago this year. So it's a long time ago. Stallions would have been coming through. You had quite a few Stallions come through in that time.
Oh yeah, well, there's 30 odd in the 60 years.
You had come through and all the rest. Some I suppose household names in a way, and even if we come back to now, because like a lot of the generation people will know, is there one that stood out in particular? Like I know you had quite a few because you had Vestelba Rainbows, Muckley Strike. You didn't have Vestelba Rainbow, did you? No, you didn't. Sorry, but Muckley Strike. Union Guy to now, but is there horses that stood out for you?
No, Muckley Strike's been both of our favourite right through.
Yep, both you and Kay.
Yep.
It was that simple.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, they're a lovely horse to do anything with. Very fertile. Left horses that used to try. Unusual in that he was a pretty smart horse himself, but totally trotting bred on the bottom half.
And could leave a trotter.
Yes.
And a real stylish trotter too.
Yes, he left some good trotters, and he left some paces that stepped a little bit high, but no, he left a lot of winners, and yeah, his fertility and his ease of handling and everything about him was lovely.
Was there a stallion over that journey that I suppose may have not got the accolades that they probably deserved?
Oh, Exotic Earl did a good job.
Yep.
Quite a few feature race winners.
Yeah, I was going to say he would have been. A lot of people would have held him as a nice horse. But
yes. Yeah. And Union Guy's still got winners going around, and he's a bit different. He, some people said he had a bit of nervous energy and passed it on to some of his stock.
Yep. He's a bit of a polarising sort of horse, Union Guy, because I talk to a lot of people and they go, oh, yuck. The horse we were talking about before was Union Alley with Kay. Not one of those ladies would say anything bad. She was a beautiful filly to them at the races and all the rest. The late Gavin Lang absolutely loved them. Like he loved the Union Guys. There were certain people that just really you could try and bag them to certain people. They'd tell you off. Gavin, one of those. He'd really stand up for him.
Yes. But then some people got one that they couldn't handle, so the polarising, I think
Yeah.
you said. But, and we had a great linkage with Neville stud at Christchurch. Their first stallion was Neville Romeo, and then they moved up the tree, getting better stallions. So he was the first stallion of theirs that we stood. Great association with them. But Jack Carncross with motorcycle, and John Gibson we had a horse with, and we stood some very nice stallions with good owners.
Motorcycles borderline before my time. I do know that there was quite a few still racing when I was there, but he was an interesting horse as well. He was a bit the same as Union Guy, wasn't he? If people had one and it could run, they'd really stick up for him. But a lot of people were supposed quick to sink the boot in maybe with him.
Yeah, well, I wanted a Meta Skipper because he was the hottest property in the world at the time. He was an early Meta Skipper that came out. People supported him well too.
Yep.
So I often got stallions that were by stallions that I really liked. Spare Hand was by Bird, and Spare Hand left good horses.
Yep.
And we leased a lot of horses, but then Kay and I got to the stage we purchased, I think, 5 stallions over the time, a bit later on, and they all left feature race winners.
Can you name those 5?
Muckley Strike, Spare Hand, Sportstown, Exotic Earl. There's another one there somewhere.
I knew that. I got to 4 too. I passed maths as well at school. It's all good. Over the journey, you've done quite a few things, and one of the reasons we had a recent chat was First Frozen. Was a horse, and that came about the Frozen Seaman. And all the rest. But you actually said to me yesterday in our conversation, you also had the first shuttle stallion. Is that correct in Australia?
Yes, Sandman Hanover, I think his name was. Yeah, 1993, first shuttle stallion. A lot of opposition from major studs. They said we won't be able to buy the best 3-year-old colt out of the US anymore, and we won't be able to lease a good horse. So you'll have these shuttle stallions coming and going, but things have changed a bit since 1993.
So how hard was that to get? Was it? Who'd you say it was? San Simeon?
No, Sandman Hanover.
Sandman Hanover. Sorry. Yeah. How hard was that to do? Firstly, did you travel a lot to the US?
No.
Never.
No. Relied on people over there, but 2 people pulled the shuttle stallion starting point off. That was John Curtin in New Zealand and John Geiger in Queensland. I suspect that John Geiger was putting in quite a bit of resources, and they might have had 4 or 5 in that first year, and the opposition was so strong that they had to have extra security in the US and out here at the quarantine stations, because people were trying so hard to find a name on the head stall of a stallion to find out what horses were coming and who was involved.
So it was a bit secretive the first year?
Yes.
So you said 5 came out. You were just one of the studs.
Oh, I think there was 5. I'm not sure.
But you were only one. You weren't the only stud. There was 5 studs in that initial year.
They might have had 3 going to New Zealand. I'm not sure about that.
But it was all in that 1 year anyway that they flew them out.
Yeah.
How well was he received once you said that you'd got him? And
he served a very good book of mares.
So the backlash was not the breeders as such; it was other studs that were
initially.
Yeah, whereas the breeder was like, "Well, here's a huge opportunity for us to get some different."
Yeah.
Yeah. How long until that settled down? I would imagine, like by the time you sent them back the first year, but I would imagine the next year would be probably still a little bit prickly again. I would have thought.
Yeah, probably so. But that's when the discussion started about these shuttle stallions that might be serving 100 or more mares in the US, and it was pretty much only the US in those days, maybe Canada a little bit. These stallions that are serving over 100 mares in the US at a good service fee, and they're coming out here and doing the same thing again. They're double dipping, they're doing pretty well. Maybe they could contribute in some way.
You're not mentioning a tax, I hope.
No, that word wasn't used, but that was the commentary that it's working all right, but it'd be good if they got involved a little bit. And one of the main studs in the US did eventually sponsor the Breeders' Crown, but of course it swung around a bit now of this century to no, none of us like the word levy or tax.
No, and we're not going there because it's a conversation about John Campbell and winning a great award. And I think, like I say, there's a lot more layers to John Campbell than people possibly don't know about. Was that, were you nervous when they approached you about potentially taking in a shuttle stadium? Was it?
No.
Did you see that as a future for the industry?
Oh yes, saw it as a good idea and a good opportunity to stand a nice horse.
Yep. Yeah, and so it's a way of probably being a leader, if you like, in the breeding part.
Oh well, we if you look back over the years, we nearly had a new stallion every year.
Yep.
So that was an opportunity to have a real nice horse as a new stallion.
And then leave and come back. Did you get him back the second year?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, he went to New Zealand.
Did you get another one though, or?
No.
Oh. Do I want to know why or not?
Oh, I'm not sure I know why.
That must have been a bit disappointing then to break ground, if you like, and then unfortunately not have him come back.
Yeah, there was a moment of disappointment.
Yeah. So then did you embark on it yourself to try and get a shuttle stallion after that, or was it just like, oh, well, we'll go to the next step?
Oh, yeah, we did a little bit of shuttling.
Yep.
And we had, of recent years, we had a beautiful arts place horse stand here. He was a shuttle stallion.
Artificial. What was his name?
Oh, you know.
I had the wrong name just then and really mucked it up. It'll come to you in a sec.
Yeah, beautifully bred horse and a beautifully performed horse and an absolutely stunning horse in himself. And he was slightly different. He served his first book of mares here. Rather than serve up there and then come down for the other half of the year, he came here first. Yep. And he served over 100 mares, went back to Canada and served over 100, then came back and served about 90. And then he went back and was serving up there and he died. So that was the end of that.
And that was probably coming towards when you were quietening down yourself and Kay anyway, and we'll get to that in a sec. When you were saying there before about the shuttle horse, and we're still in the days then of manual serve, aren't you? Like with the horses, actually, the mares still had to be on the farm. There was no AI at that stage.
No, well, AI was a big step in the industry, and there was 14 stud masters went and did a course for a week on AI. So yeah, we all got started.
And you were one of those?
Yeah.
What year was that? What a dead air. You can't have dead air. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Someone else will know it. Don't worry about that. Did you see that as a positive for the industry? How was that received at the time as well?
Oh, it was received pretty well. We all knew that they'd been doing it with cattle for 50 years, and we wondered why the horse world wasn't doing much of it. Yep. We heard the quarter horses were doing a bit of it. No, it was just natural progression, and it was great for the stallions, use them Monday, Wednesday and Friday and serve more mares, and no, it was good.
Did you foresee the way that it may have changed the breeding industry at the time? Were you aware that it's probably going to really change it, that people eventually would have mares on their farm that may never leave their farm and could go to stay-ins at 10 different studs? Did you actually foresee that as potentially the outcome?
Oh, I don't think I foresaw transporting semen much before it, a year or two before it happened. Yeah, that was another big step. You could, and then New Zealand came into the picture, and you could nearly have your mare served anywhere by any stallion. Yeah, that was huge.
Did that affect you at Loddon Valley? Is that was that sort of the start? Because you said there before, I think you said you had 400 residential mares, so I'd imagine you've got a very big business with not guaranteed income, if you like, but I would imagine if you've got 400 mares, you can say, rightio, well, we're going to make a minimum of this for the year, so you can budget that. Then all of a sudden the mares aren't coming to your place because people can keep them at home. And is that potentially where it started to change for Loddon Valley?
Oh yeah, it changed, but we still had a fair few mares coming because we still had our stallions.
Yep.
And yeah, a lot of people wanted to go fairly locally. And of course, sire stake racing started about 1980, so that was Victorian stallion, Victorian mare. So that was one of the biggest steps. And yeah, we had our own mares, and yeah, Kay used to take the transported semen from Derrimox to Bendigo 3 times a week to catch sucurias there.
Yep.
So yeah, that was an important part of what we were doing from then on.
Do you enjoy the way that it's changed? Too much hesitation. The answer to that's no then.
No, I know most of it's been good.
Okay. Most of it's been good. I did a recent interview with you in relation to the penny drops, and when he was racing in the Inter-Dominion, and there's a terrific backstory to him, and I think it's his grandmother, isn't it? It's not his mother, it's his grandmother whose name is First Frozen. And that basically is because she was one of half a dozen mares, I believe, served.
Yeah.
Well, not she wasn't. She was a resulting foal, actually, of half a dozen mares being served, and of course being the first frozen semen tried in Australia.
Yes, Australian Harness Racing Council approved it in about October in 1996, and we had some links with people. We were able to get some frozen semen from Sweden on a horse called Anders Crown, a very well-bred horse, and we started in December. We served 10 or 11 mares, and very interesting learning curve, that one. How to look after the frozen semen and thaw it out at the right speed and serve the mare when she was ovulating. And there was a bit of a stigma about it all for a few years because the costs are higher, but then a lot more people have got much better at it.
I was going to ask that. You said there before about your shuttle stands, and there was a lot of drawback or negativity about the shuttle. Was it similar when you guys were trying the frozen? Was there that anti it?
Well, people didn't understand it, and yeah, the costs were a bit higher with it, and the results weren't as good, so it took a little while.
Did you enjoy that experience? Like, did you enjoy being sort of a trailblazer, if you like, and the challenge?
Oh yeah, I'm not too sure about the trailblazer side of it. But, yeah,
a trailblazer is a person that does something the first time. So I mean, it wasn't just you, but there was a group of you. It's a little bit like with the, again, the shuttle stands. It wasn't just you, but there was a group of you.
We had an outstanding vet, Dr. Ian Parrish.
Yep.
And yes, they've improved things with. You don't have to serve a mare with frozen now. When she's ovulating, you can help.
Yeah.
Back at that time, though, we didn't matter whether it was 3 o'clock in the morning or
It's an interesting thing. It always seems to be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well,
they don't.
they're female, you see.
Oh, John, you can't say that. You know, I'm not deleting that either. I'm leaving that in there.
Yeah, look, having a good vet, that was an outstanding help.
It was, and it made a difference. Afterwards, how was that received like that? So how many out of the first lot did you get actually in foal?
We got 6 in foal, 1 mare died and 2 slept, and there's 3 foals.
3 resulting foals. So, and I think that's one of the things. But first frozen, she was the first frozen embryo named, I suppose, or semen.
First foal. Yep.
Yeah, she was the first one actually named. So, have the others done anything? Do you know?
Yeah, I think Jeff Hood's got a filly that's done a bit.
Yep. So that was an interesting curve. All of that was still done at Loddon Valley?
Yes.
Yep. In recent years, you've moved here to Bendigo. We're out at Lockwood South here. What brought about that change?
Oh, well, our 3 kids had moved away. Shane was in Melbourne. The 2 daughters were in Bendigo. We must have been wearing out a little bit. I think we decided that we wouldn't be doing that forever.
Yep.
So Kay always said I sold the farm and come in and told her I'd done it. I didn't think it was that sudden, but
was it sad though? Like, I mean, you know, it's something that.
Oh yeah, big move.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of memories that, like, we just covered off on there. You know, including with your father. It was a 1 block of land that he wanted. So I mean, it wouldn't have been an easy.
No, big move.
Yeah. Was it a local farmer or someone that bought the land, or?
Oh yeah, the largest piggery man up anywhere. He was across the road, so he bought a piece, and a large dairy farmer who joined us on the north side, he bought the other.
Yep. So it was a significant thing. And you stood stands here. You've only got 30 acres, but you did actually stands here. The beauty of how things change, isn't it? That you would never dream of standing. You know, I think at one stage you had 4 or 5 stallions here. You would never have dreamt of standing 4 or 5 stallions on 30 acres. But the way that things have changed now with, you know, collection, semen, doesn't even have to be frozen. It can be just chilled and away you go. It has changed till today where you don't have you don't have a stallion here, do you?
No, haven't got a registered stallion at the moment.
No. And will possibly not?
No, we're winding down.
Yeah, I was making sure because I know this one over there is going to say no, we're definitely not. I just thought, well, I better be careful because this is not about Kay, this is about John. It's not. It's about the pair of you and the journey that you guys have had and where you've got to it. But by winding down the stud season part of it, you've still become very active and you've stayed very active. I mean, Harness Breeders Victoria. How long have you been an associate there?
Oh, well, the start of that was joining the Studmasters Association. And I was even treasurer of the Studmasters for a short time.
Yep.
Is
it still going, the Studmasters Association?
Yeah, well, there's been a couple of... there was a forced marriage. Ian McEwen said, "You're all breeders, you shall be one association."
Which was Harness Breeders Victoria.
Yeah, which was there was a Breeders Association, and that was set up by some good people in Melbourne, mainly in opposition to the studs. It was perceived that 1 or 2 weren't doing a real good job at the mares. So the breeders got started, and the Studmasters were still going strong with all the main Studmasters involved. And people like Ross Simpson and Kevin and Leo Newbound were developing their broodmare bands, and they were starting to concentrate on selling numbers of yearlings, and they wanted more stake money for young horses so that people would want to breed and want to buy at the yearling sales. And they were working out, and Bernie Ahern was heavily involved, working out, well, how can we get more stake money? And John Tweddle said, what we've got to do, and he'd worked in the US as a very young fella, he said, you need size stake racing. And some of us said, what's that? And he explained the Ontario system and the New Jersey system. So we said to Bernie Ahern, well, what are you suggesting we do? Because he knew a bit about it, because he'd been over there buying 2 or 3 stallions. And he said, well, I'd put whatever cash we could come up with on the table and work out what to do. So 10 of us put in $1,000 each, and we teed up inviting Jack Boort and his wife. Jack Boort was president of the USTA, so it was a fairly significant trip. And they came out.
So the 10,000 bought them out?
Yes.
Yep.
And we had a big night with breeders and stud masters to learn about sire stake racing. And Jack Boort addressed the tote people, the government, the opposition, and someone else, I think. Yes, he addressed them all, and a lot of people didn't know what sire stake meant.
Yep.
So that, and Bernie Ahern was on the TCB at the time, and he was friends with the Minister for Sport, Brian Dixon. Brian Dixon went to the US and Canada and sent back everything he could find on sire stake racing. And we got agreement. There was supposed to be the same as in North America, about half of 1% of turnover to go into stake money. But anyway, I think the government and the tote didn't agree with that one. So the government put some money in to get it started. And then one of the best ideas was, rather than waiting for the next stud season for mares to get in foal and have the foals eligible, was to make that crop of yearlings out there in the paddocks the first crop eligible. So I think it was only about 18 months and we were underway with sire stake racing.
And you're saying that was a good thing?
Marvellous.
Yep.
And New South Wales and New Zealand followed the next year.
Yep. And it's just grown from there.
Yes.
You'd have to be so proud. I mean, you know, I suppose everyone that was at that initial meeting must be so proud of the way, because it's still the flagship of harness racing, especially here in Victoria. I mean, it's just incredible how it has, I suppose, grown and developed over the years, and just to win these Vicbred bonuses all come back from that sire stakes programs, don't they?
Yes, it's growing well, and we want to see more growth. And of recent times, with Vicbred Pure and Platinum, there was some concerns that the best stallions in the world serving mares here, the foal was eligible, or the other way round. The best mares in the world serve with a stallion here. Ian McEwen made it a bit too wide. It was more like a futurity. So of recent times it's been closed up a bit, and with Vicbred Pure we're nearly back to the old sire stake wording, Victorian stallion, Victorian mare, but it can't be that clear cut now with frozen semen and transported semen and all that sort of thing. But yeah, we're the people involved now are trying to make sure that we look after Victoria.
Because that's how it works in Ohio and those places over there, isn't it? Like it is a very closed shop over there, their sire stakes. You can race there, but to be eligible for their sire stakes program's pretty hard.
Yes, they haven't changed the old eligibility rules, a lot of them.
It's one of those ones, Mark Hughes from Woodlands tells me, I think, you know, American Ideal, you've got to be there nearly 60 days before the stud season starts. The stallions have to, otherwise they're not eligible for that. Yep. It's something like that, or it's either 30 or 60 days, which is incredible. You know, we look at it here, but over there it's even stronger, and it's incredible how it's working in America, how it works here. Thoroughbreds, they took a long time to sort of catch on to it, and the likes, but it's something that, especially in Victoria, I know New South Wales all of a sudden have come out with some great initiatives, but they probably dropped the ball on it a little bit.
Yes, they didn't have the great stallions to back them up for a while, but they're bounced back now, and Queensland's got a ripper system. You can, the beauty of theirs is your horse can win up about $20,000 lifetime, and you get a bit more. They're encouraging the Q-bred horse to stay in Queensland and keep racing. So we've still got some development to do.
Absolutely. I'm doing an interview with David Brick tomorrow, whether that means this interview probably won't go out tonight, but it may have gone out before it. But I encourage people to have a look at the latest one that I've done with David, because he's going to explain how all that works, and I think it's great the way they are doing it. You got onto, so then you were on the committee of Harness Breeders Victoria. How long have you been on Harness Breeders Victoria? How long have you been associated with that?
Oh, quite a while.
Yep.
I was the first studmaster that went on to the breeders, which that was good.
So hang on, this is before HBV became a part. You actually went to the breeders.
Yes, when Ian McEwen told both bodies, you're all breeders, you join up, and neither body...
You've done quite a few firsts, haven't you?
Supported the idea, because
Yep.
we both had our constitutions, and we were... forced marriage. Ian, in his good way, when we were a bit slow, he said, right, I won't talk to either of you until you join up.
So you were one of the initiators of stepping over the white line.
Yeah, had a few discussions with Ian. I was the first chairman of the amalgamated body.
Would have been turbulent times, I would imagine?
No, it was okay. Jeff Barnes helped with the plan as to how to do it. So the 12-person committee was to be 4 studmasters and 4 breeders and 4 others. It worked well.
Have you enjoyed the way that it's gone? I find Harness Breeders Victoria quite a powerful group, I shouldn't say powerful, but a group that gets things done. Like, they seem to be on the forefront, whether they agree with everything that's getting done at the minute or at times or not. They are very forefront. You'd have to be pretty buoyed by. For mine, it's not a useless association, the Harness Breeders Victoria. They do contribute. They seem to contribute quite a lot.
Oh yeah, look, they've been fantastic, and they've had some great people. Des McQueen was huge, and volunteers.
Yep.
Jeff Waters and Stan Rutland, and then moving on to Ian Kitchen, and now you've got people like Nick Hooper and Desiree Pettit-Keating and Kath McIntosh. The people are coming through to keep it all going.
Yeah, Brett Coffey as well, like people that are generational as well, that are coming through and still contributing to that part as well.
My word.
Yeah, which is really good. I actually had another question to ask you just then, and it actually only one more. That wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. But you're still active with Harness Breeders Victoria at the minute. I know what my question was. I'll get to you in a sec.
Yeah, I'm still on the committee,
Yep.
not the executive, but happy to be telling a few of the brilliant young ones what used to happen, and they're not interested.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to do that. I mean, you've got to remember the past to go forward in the future, because otherwise you'll continue to do the same mistakes. Yeah,
no, look, Terry Lewis and I are probably the senior people on that 12, and we still enjoy it.
The other day, I was fortunate enough to stream it live, and one thing, Terry Lewis, I think it's his daughter, actually bred pink galahs.
Yes.
So I think, again, generational. I would imagine that would be one of those things that you'd get a bit of a smile to your face when you see that.
Oh yeah, when he tells you the story about they had to push pink galahs away as a small, not very attractive foal when they were feeding, but pink galahs defied everything.
They did indeed. The other part I wanted to say to you there, though, was that Tony Brett gave great insight into Rod Pollock. Unfortunately, it was posthumously awarded life membership, which is never a nice way to do it. But in his speech, the talk that Tony did, and Tony was a little bit nervous about it. I think he portrayed Rod beautifully, but they actually said about the fun times of going to these meetings. So as much as it must have been, I suppose, scary and different times, it's still, by the sounds of it, was a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyable. Tony said it was the one thing that he really looked forward to, was sitting down having a meeting with you guys. Yeah,
well, Tony's, of course, very good at committee level or chairmanship level. There were good times when Tony was doing all of that, and I haven't studied the interview he did with Rod yet. I've got to do that, but life wasn't dull when Rod was around. He had to step in as secretary of the breeders overnight when Ian Kitchen couldn't continue, and of course he found it was a fairly big job, and he said, you're going to have a secretary. He said, I can't be doing all this. And we said, well, righto, advertise and we'll get another Des McQueen and Ian Kitchen. He said, no, we're not doing that. You're going to have to pay someone. So Rod did the calling for nominations and the interviews and the appointment, and that's where Desiree came from.
And that's what Tony said. So but the friendship, I would imagine, over the journey, you've rattled off a lot of names. John Tweddle was one that when you said that name before, and I was like, you forget about these people. There'd be so many people. Hopefully they're still listening to us waffle on, John, but there'd be so many people who would never have heard of Ross Simpson's, those guys. I'd imagine you've made some massive friendships with some really like-minded people, I suppose. Yeah,
well, those half dozen big changes we've seen just over those years, well, those people were standing stallions through all of that period. So it was, I'm not sure about fun times, but it was... they were good times. There was things happening.
Yeah, I think Tony said enjoyable, but he said it was fun. He did say it wasn't always. It wasn't like you were going there and playing with Play-Doh or things like that.
Well, Tony hasn't stood a stallion.
That makes a difference, does it?
Well, it's not fun times every day.
So
I know what Tony meant.
When you
he could handle us.
When you sometimes I think I can, sometimes I can't. I'm glad Kay's sitting over there on the side. I must say, when is the notebook going to stop potentially coming out of the top pocket? Is there a time when John Campbell's going to potentially wind back a little bit at all, or?
Well, we've done the winding back a little bit already.
What about with committees and the likes? Yes, you're not standing a stallion. I'm aware of that. You're going to play ducks and drakes. I can play it too. We've got the same surname. I know how to play these games.
No, I'll be winding down more each year now.
Yep.
Yeah, still involved with the VSTA and the harness breeders Vic and ASBA. Most of those people know that I'll stand aside as soon as
someone comes along.
Yeah, my word. Yeah, no, seriously winding down.
Yeah, because as you said, you're only 70 years young. And only just 70 by the sounds. Although I have done my maths, and so I've worked out a couple of things that, you might be a fair way into that little innings. Would that be fair?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember how old I am.
Yourself and Kay, though, you still enjoy the trots? You still enjoy the way that the industry is going?
Yeah, we do. We're meeting people that we've known for years all the time, and meeting new people. And of course we've tried something different. We've never really raced our own stock, but we're racing a couple of mares at the moment, and that's fun too.
It is. Box of Chocolates is one of those horses, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and her Box of Chocolate's great mate, Heart's Last.
Yep. Yeah, and you're having fun with those. And that's what the industry, I think that's one thing where a lot of people probably miss the boat, and you're probably a good one to talk about it, because you said there before that the outrage about having a shuttle stallion, if you like, coming over the frozen semen. So you have a lot of serious times. You've still got to be able to sit back and enjoy it with your mates. Tony Brett there saying before about the fun. That they're the best parts you remember, isn't it?
Yes, and being involved with stallions and a stud and the broodmare owners, you keep bumping into broodmare owners that you've got a foal or two for them, and that was the important thing. And there was 9,000 foals bred in Australia back in about 1990.
Yep.
And it dropped back to half.
Yep.
So the people breeding the foals were very important.
Yep. And that's, we need to get back to those days. That'll never happen. We'll never get back to the 9,000s, but we've got to keep contributing to try and improve it.
Yes, well, the Freeze Branders and Microchip team, I think there's two of them, They've branded and microchipped 100 more this season that they're finishing now than the season before, and we were hopeful of that because Victoria served 13% more mares
The season before, yeah.
Yes, and they still might have 50 to 100 to do. So the percentage increase in the number of foals on the ground it might be up 10%. So yeah, we've got to. And apparently, a lot of stallions were fully booked in the season just gone. So we hope that long dip of less foals is stopped.
That from your point, from like a person that's had such a rich and long time, I suppose that must be a great relief in a way, because I would imagine, like you said, you saw in the early 90s 9,000, it dropped to half. It must be buoyed by the fact that it is increasing, albeit percentage might be a bit small, but the fact that it's just increasing must be good.
Oh, it's so important. You can't have races with not enough horses in them. So it's that simple. And Victoria's got a great band of stallions now, and a great band of broodmares, and some great breeders. All the ones that breed one or two, and then the ones that breed a lot, and some outstanding horses. And the stake money at upper level is pretty good. We've just got to get that $7,000 minimum up across the board. It's moved. Dale Brown and HRV have moved it up a bit for some of the rating numbers.
Try and get it all up.
We just got to get the 7 up right across the board.
You moved to Bendigo. You've got some grandkids. That part of it, you must enjoy that stage of like going to watching the kids do things and enjoy that part of it.
Oh yeah. It's that is great fun.
Yep.
And the other Saturday morning we had to squeeze in the soccer and the football all in about an hour and a half. So
you're not stepping on any of those committees, are you?
No.
I wasn't sure.
Kay can do that.
Just thought
the son-in-law's a coach. He's coaching soccer and football. How about that?
Do you give him notes? Do you write things down during the game and come back to him?
Not yet.
Not yet. Matter of time.
No, he's played a little bit of footy. He hasn't played much soccer, but no, he's going well.
No, very good. John, thank you for joining me, and congratulations. Hopefully we've covered off on everything. You had a pad over there with some notes. You never even got to those, so hopefully we've covered off on most of them. But I think well done to you, and I think and Kay as well. And as I said, Kay's sitting over there. But I think the legacy that you're going to leave harness racing with, I think you should be very, very proud of some of the things you've been able to achieve. There'll be some people turn around and say, oh yeah, but he did this and he did that. But at the same time, I think you should be very proud of the amount of time you contribute. I do enjoy going to Boort and seeing those meetings. I will say that. Is there any chance we might just get a little bit more organised, or is that asking too much?
Well, it depends on who you're expecting to be more organised. Is it you or me?
You. I'm generally there on time and got a rough idea what's going on.
Yeah, well, we know sometimes you leave the schedule sitting on the desk there, and you run your own schedule, but you fit and you suit Boort very well. It works.
It works indeed. So do you, and I think well done to you. As I said, congratulations, one on the award, but well done to everything you've done in harness racing, mate. And thank you very much for giving me a bit of your time. So I really do appreciate it. So thank you very much, mate.
Yeah, look, delighted to have a chat, and the night of nights was lovely. And those other winners, another 5 or so, got the same award as me. But then Anne-Marie Conroy, the Pearl Kelly Award winner, and Brian Gath, those other award winners, they responded so well, and they were humble, and they said they were lucky. So the night had an awful lot going for it.
Were you humble?
They chose not to do an interview.
Is there some chance that someone worded Mickey Philgate up that it might still be going now?
Yeah, well, when I went up onto the stage to accept the award, I was first. I think it was alphabetically. I'd just been talking to Michael Felgate a couple of minutes before, so he starts talking about Boort, how long Boort had been going. So I wandered over near his microphone, and we clarified something. 133 years Boort's been continuous, and he said that's a world record, and that's not quite right. Anyway, I could feel that I should have been standing in the more over in the middle area. So I went to go down the steps, and they said, no, stay here, we're getting a group photo. So there was a lot of fun that night.
Very true. We didn't even actually touch on that time when the clubs were, I suppose, removed. We might do that at another time. We might get a few other people involved in that was around at that time. But this is more about you and what you've been able to contribute to the breeding industry, and I'm sure your family and the like. So thank you very much, mate. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure, and there's 6 or 7 names I can give you that smash the V3 policy.
Just look at that camera and say thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. I've enjoyed it. You're talking about fun. I've enjoyed it.
We've had four goodbyes. You know that?
Yeah, well, you're running the show.
Thanks, John.